Buenas tardes, good afternoon, hola, hola, ¿cómo están todos? How are you guys? My name is Lindsay Casinelli. I'm a co-host of Contacto Deportivo and República Deportiva, both shows that airs on Univision with a lot of soccer, the home of soccer. And I'm very glad to be here at Soccerex USA in Miami. Today, we're going to be talking about the best marriage in sport, technology and soccer. That's the name I put to the panel, but the real name is, please join me, how MLS and RGA Ventures are using technology to grow MLS fan base. Please join me to welcome our guest, Gary Stevenson, the President and Managing Director of MLS Business Venture, and Stephen Plumley, the Global Chief Operating Officer of RGA and Managing Partner in RGA Ventures. Thank you very much, guys, for being here. And let's make this fun, because this is supposed to be fun when we talk about our passion, which is soccer, and how technology has helped soccer to grow here in the United States, especially with MLS, with this great season we have had this year. Thank you. And can you tell us a little bit about, Gary, how technology have helped MLS to know your fan base?
Well, let me start first by thanking you for all that you do. You're one of MLS's biggest fans.
Definitely, with Joseph Martinez breaking the record.
I was going to say, Joseph Martinez from her country of Venezuela. So we thank you for all you do all year long. I mean, it's a little bit of an awkward title. How do you use technology to grow our business? I think that any business in today's world must use technology. It's table stakes if you think about it. But when it comes to our sport, our league, and where we fit in the landscape of sports and entertainment, it starts with our fans, because our fans are the youngest of all professional sports in North America. They're most digitally savvy. They use a lot of different kinds of technology. So for us, it's not whether we're going to use technology. We have to use technology because we have to find solutions so that we can deliver content and entertainment to our fans, who are a young fan base. And we have to reach them where they are and how they're consuming. Because if we don't, we're going to lose the opportunity. There's so many different opportunities for any consumer, but particularly a younger consumer, to do different things. And as we all know, the attention span is short, a lot shorter than it used to be. For our sport, the sport of football or soccer, a 2-hour telecast actually is a real positive for us, because you compare the length of our telecast with some other sports, it's a lot more appealing for our fan base. But what I'll tell you is that I think what encourages us the most about our fan base is that every content distributor, including Univision, and every corporate partner that we talk to wants to find and reach this fan base. It's a hard fan base to get to because there's so many disparate opportunities for them. The sport of soccer and music are two themes that really unify that group. So it's our job to make sure that we reach them where they are.
It's a unique fan base.
Totally.
But you don't only want to know your fan base, you want to know everything about your fan base. You want to know when, what, why about them. So
Right.
That's why technology is so important, to understand the details and the segmentations of that fan base.
We did a big research project a couple years ago. We interviewed almost 40,000 consumers in Canada and the United States. And what we found is there are basically 70 million fans who like professional club soccer. If you think about it, there's over 400 million people, and there's 70 right now that are attracted to club soccer. So one of the things that we have to do is broaden that fan base. So that's mission number one. The second thing is, when we did that research, what we found is that there were 8 different segments of people that were interested in sport. 2 of those fan bases, and we define them as soccer enthusiasts and super sports fans, they make up 1/3 of that 70 million, but they consume 2/3 of our product. So that particular group is right in our sweet spot, and we have to develop that group. When we went deeper and we said to them, what do we at MLS need to do to reach that audience, to grow that audience? We needed to deliver on three things. One is club attachment, two is quality of play, and three is stadium experience when they're actually in the building. So when we think about what questions we're trying to answer, it's in those three areas, which is why we turn to RGA, because we'll get into that in a minute, but RGA has so much experience in the digital world all the way back to 1980. They've always been one of the leading companies thinking about what's next on the horizon. How do you reach consumers differently? And what we found is there were so many different ideas and technology that were coming into our office, but we didn't have a chance to process them all. So we took a step back and we decided to engage with RGA because they have the ability to scan the world, not only for the companies that are coming to us, but other companies to try to find solutions on how we can reach consumers in those three target areas that we talked about.
When you put together RGA plus MLS equals innovation. Let's take a look at the video.
No goal. They're taking it back. Let's go, let's go. Hey! Sorry, guys, I'm screaming in your ear. No, that's fine. I got the best seat in the house, right? The 3 points they need.
We've been waiting for this day. I know.
Finally.
Oh, he's got him over it.
Awesome. Bottom line, you make the fans be part of the experience of soccer through technology. Can you tell us a little bit about on-the-field experiences like that time of the All-Star when you mic'd up the Brad Guzan and he can talk in the middle of the game?
Well, as we all know, that's not allowed by FIFA rules, and that was an exhibition, our All-Star game. But we did it because we wanted to try it and see what it looked like. Some of the other things that we've done, which have really been appealing, and quite frankly, our sport is behind some of the other sports in North America when it comes to this. And I think as an industry, we really need to think about what our product looks like. But we've dramatically changed our access policies in the last 2 years so that during games we will mic up coaches, which fans love. They love to hear the strategy. A lot of times we'll show the locker room before a game, which is just so unusual for this sport, but honestly for the NBA and some of the others, it's table stakes. So there's a variety of things we've done like that.
They use social media like Twitter.
Social media, you know, I think we were the first to do a live broadcast with Facebook. It was the English language version of our games on Univision, our matches on Univision we did on Facebook. This year we did it with Twitter. And the results on Twitter were actually really, really impressive. And what Twitter did for the first time is they actually had a camera that the fans in the stands were allowed to control. So it was user-generated content, and we actually worked that into the Twitter feed. And the response we got during the broadcast on Twitter with other fans seeing the fans that was being generated in stadium was really important. You know, if you think about it, I can't remember, it was maybe 6 or 8 years ago, there was an NCAA basketball game. I think it was in Indianapolis. And it was a great game, and there was a player who was injured very badly. in the arena. And I kept getting texts from about 20 different people that were in the building. They didn't know what was going on. So one of the things we have to think about, and we talk a lot about, is how is the stadium experience for our fans as good or better than the viewing experience at home? In the case of that basketball game, if you're at the game, you had no clue what was going on. You didn't know how injured the kid was. You didn't know how it was going to affect. And so your experience in that game was much worse than the television viewer. So we have to be really careful when we're thinking about the balance of what is the experience in stadium, how is it special? Because if we don't continue to attract people to come to our stadiums and create that special atmosphere like we had last weekend with 72,000 people in Atlanta in that playoff game, if we don't keep building that experience, it doesn't translate on broadcast. So it's a fine line between what technology do you employ in stadium and what technology do you employ on broadcast.
It's definitely a great partnership. You use the word we many times. So I want to hear, Steven, how are you making this happen?
Well, it's not just us making it happen. As we saw in that video, MLS is already extremely innovative and trying different things. To us, it's all about experimentation. And we hear the word technology, it sounds a little off-putting, but really all we're talking about are forms of communication and ways to communicate with fans. And ideally, that communication is a two-way communication, not just a one-way communication. So in addition to broadcast, in addition to stadium experience, all of the other tools that we're thinking about, social media, Twitter, and many others, are all about that, engaging fans through communication. And what MLS has going for it, one of the things that attracted us to partnering with MLS is the demographic is just so compelling. And young users are consuming media in very different ways. They want it to be personalized. They want it to be mobile, whenever and however they want to see it. So, figuring out ways to leverage technology to use those great assets that MLS already has to reach those fans or future fans was a really compelling challenge for us to work together on.
And you have a program going on. Can you tell us an example of that program?
We do. We RGA are a strategic kind of marketing agency. We work with blue chip clients, Samsung, Google, Nike, and others. Sports is a big part of what we do. And 5 years ago, we launched what we call RJ Ventures. The idea is it's a platform for innovation that allows corporate partners or partners like MLS to capitalize on not only disruptive technology, but even more important, perhaps emerging behaviors and how those two things kind of come together. So the point of the way we structure these programs is that we understand what the strategic objectives are of MLS or other partner. They're vertically focused programs usually. And then we go out and source companies globally that potentially provide solutions for that partner. And we, over the last 5 years, have looked, we've done 14 of these programs. We've looked at thousands of companies, truly globally. We've looked at companies in over 40 countries. So at the moment, we're working with MLS on the specific problems that Gary mentioned, or objectives that Gary mentioned. How to leverage technology to increase the fan base by looking at club attachment, stadium experience, and quality of play. And we've gone out and mapped companies from all over the world and brought them in to try to solve those problems. And the way we do that is by structuring pilots and working very closely with the teams inside MLS and inside the clubs to execute that and de-risk the innovation process in doing so.
So what I would add to that is we first heard about the RGA Accelerator program because the Los Angeles Dodgers did I think the first one, at least that I was aware of.
Yeah.
And it's fascinating because from the Dodgers program, there was a company called YsP, which I think that came from the Dodgers.
It did. Came through the Dodgers program.
And it's an automated highlights technology which allows our content creators to automate the highlights, and they're done through an algorithm. So we need less staff to do that, number one, and number two, it's done faster. So that was a fascinating technology that we found. We were always fascinated because, as I recall, there was a woman who had a special detergent
That's right.
in Nova Scotia, right?
One of the companies was in Nova Scotia. She was from Cleveland, Ohio, and she had developed a new chemistry for just a simple product, laundry detergent, but it worked orders of magnitude better than anything else on the market. And now her product is in many of the professional sports clubs across different sports leagues.
So it's fascinating, the technologies that are out there, and we had no way that we could kind of put them through a filter, just because we didn't have the resource to do that. RGA does that very carefully. They also take a lot of time to understand what our problems are. So we're doing 3-4 month pods. So in the first pod that we're in the middle of right now, we're focused on club attachment. And it'd be helpful, I think, for you to describe kind of where we are, because we're in the middle of a couple tests. Our goal is not to just look at technology companies. Our goal is to find some that we can actually employ in our business. And one that Stephen's going to describe is one that we think could become a global grassroots program for us that could perhaps lead into something at our All-Star game to make our All-Star game bigger. But describe that if you would.
So as Gary said, the theme of that first module is club attachment. We looked at, again, hundreds and hundreds of companies with the MLS team across against a criteria. We've landed on 2 companies that we think are particularly interesting in that respect, and both of them actually totally coincidentally happen to be AR companies. One of them is a company that, through the use of AR and a smartphone, can turn really any space into a virtual goal and allow her or him, she or he, to set up a practice space and track their kicks, practice their shooting. It could be the back of a garage door, it could be an alleyway, it could be a playground. And the amount of engagement that comes out of that is pretty spectacular. Great engagement with fans, but also great engagement opportunities for brands. So we're doing some pilots. The results so far have been extremely encouraging. We're going to roll it out, I think, to many of the clubs across the league. So that's one example, and that's a company that actually came from Australia. We found that company in Australia. The second is also an AR company. It's, the concept of that company is that the camera in a smartphone is actually a really powerful communication device or engagement device between a brand and the fans. And so what that company does is it's created a way for basically anyone to publish content across Snapchat, Instagram, and Facebook in a really easy way. And that could be seen as a tool for MLS or a brand to kind of communicate out, but like I was saying earlier, it's really about communicating in 2 directions. And what that tool can do is allow fans to create that content, obviously, and then drive up engagement and club attachment in that way. So those are just 2 examples around the idea of club attachment. And we're also looking at, in the quality of play space, a really powerful player tracking system out of Denmark that's much more powerful than anything we've seen up till now. And also a company that is out of Sweden that does on-field data capture using just wide-angle cameras and computer vision, AI-powered computer vision. So moving beyond sensors, removing the need for lots of hardware in the field and capturing data in a much more interesting way. So those are examples of the types of technologies that are around the world that fall into these buckets that we've been structuring the program around.
And our hope is, at least at Major League Soccer, if we find interesting ideas or interesting technologies that apply across our industry, it is our job as an industry to embrace creativity and technology and innovation, because we are all competing with other sports and other forms of entertainment. So if we can get better as an industry and we can help lead in that effort, we would very much like to do that.
Technology sounds so hard when you explain it, but when you put it in practice, it makes our lives easier. I want to know what the future holds for this partnership, for this marriage between MLS and RGA.
Well, you've declared it a marriage pretty quickly. But,
it's a great marriage. No
as my
divorce
kids
allowed,
would-
okay,
as my
please?
kids would say, we're still talking to each other.
Just
No,
getting to
I'm
know
I'm
each
just
other
kidding.
so far.
This is one of the better partnerships that I've had, and I've been in the industry since 1980. And the reason why is because RGA really does their work. They really dig into helping us solve our problems. But you can imagine where this could go. We could have technology to help us identify and quantify and qualify player talent as they come through the ranks. We could have technology make our broadcast more interesting than they are today, or certainly more efficient. You know, you could envision a day where someday a match is broadcast robotically from a control room, and you can integrate a variety of different data and player information into that broadcast. So if you think that the broadcast in 4 years is going to be like it is today, there's no chance of that. And if you think in 8 years, it's going to be very different. So certainly when we think about broadcast, when we think about fan experience, getting to the stadium, what it feels like when you're in the stadium, what is the content you get on your mobile device, because any fan, at least any millennial fan that I know, when they go to the game, they rarely just watch the game. They want to interact, they want to engage, they want to move content around, they want to be constantly doing those things. We have to make sure that we can provide that so it's entertaining. If not, they won't come. We have to make it so it's easier to get a beer so that you don't miss a goal. We have to make it so it's easier to, you know, to get a ride share to the stadium. And then when you get to the stadium, you have the ability to have your T-shirt for the night and whatever else you want all done in advance. So all of those things are going to be created by technology. Certainly we can't attack every single problem, but I think this idea of doing it in pods, finding some interesting technologies, piloting them at the clubs. In a number of cases, we will invest together in those, because if we think they are interesting technologies, we will invest because we want to make sure that those companies that show promise have the proper funding so that they can help us solve our problems.
Right, and we, you know, as I said before, we're thinking about not just technology, but also emerging behaviors and how that really drives how fans engage with MLS. So it's not just about the broadcast. I mean, MLS is already doing many things beyond the broadcast, but it's about how new fans and a new demographic and younger fans behind that demographic are actually going to engage. And we at RGA call that the 4-minute fan, where, you know, fans don't have necessarily the attention span to sit through even a football match versus other sports, and so they want to engage in different ways, whether they're in the stadium or outside of the stadium, and technology can enable that. Again, personalized, mobile, two-way forms of communication for just completely different demographics.
The key word is engagement, and you need technology to do that,
You
even
know,
on TV.
You know, at MLS, I guess 4 years ago, we produced about 2,000 video pieces a year. This year, we'll do 20,000. And so we are investing a lot of money and a lot of resource and a lot of time and energy into creating content, distributing content, and eventually monetizing content. But in our view, that is the most inexpensive way to build fans, because you can, if you do it right, it can maybe not be totally self-liquidating, but you can liquidate a lot of your investment. A lot of the technologies we're looking at will play in that space. How do we get information? How do we get content to fans in a faster way? The other thing I would say is, with the World Cup being on in Canada, Mexico, and the United States in 2026, we have quite a tailwind. So we will have a number of people exposed to this sport that typically we wouldn't have. When that happens, we have to be able to capture them.
You have to be ready.
We have to be ready to
That's the
capture
key.
them, because we'll have a number of folks that are going to try this sport over the next 8 years, and that's a huge opportunity for us. So part of the reason we're making this investment is that we have different techniques for capturing them, however that might be.
And because we need to be ready, I open the panel for questions. Gary, Steven, they're ready to answer any of your questions if you have any. Someone? No?
James.
No? You want to
James
see
has a
them
question.
after then? Oh, over there. One.
Well, this is a good discussion. Gary, you mentioned something important about the live experience and the fact that quite often you have situations where you hear or experience the sound, for instance, better in a television broadcast than you can actually get at the game. becomes difficult to hear speech recognition, speech intelligibility, and so forth. So I'm just wondering what kind of steps you guys are considering. We had the same experience when I worked on Tampa Bay Lightning back about 12 years ago when we installed that system there. It was a situation where the home broadcast was so much better. So we actually put boundary mics on the glass and did some things that really were able to incorporate into the live experience, and it really made a huge difference.
It's a fantastic question. You know, we did an exhaustive study in the last 12 months on 21 different categories of infrastructure. Everything from lighting to Wi-Fi to DOS to fiber to the video boards to digital signage. I mean, it was really exhaustive. And I think what we found is that a number of our stadiums are not where we'd like them to be. And it's understandable given the fact that we're in our 23rd year of existence. And so the balance that we have with our owners, and the best part of our league, I think you heard the commissioner talking about it earlier, is the commitment of our owners. They continue to invest in new buildings, they invest in training facilities, they invest in TAM, which is intended to improve the middle part of the roster so that we address the quality of play issue that we talked about a little bit earlier. And in the next year, we're going to talk to them about investing also in their buildings, because we have to make sure that our buildings are at certain standards, particularly on lighting and particularly on the ability to pass a text and pass video between friends. So I think you'll see an additional investment from our ownership going forward, but that's an ongoing project for us as we go forward. Certainly our new buildings, we have certain requirements that they must hit, and the experience is very different in some of those newer buildings.
Any other question?
Hi, I happen to be an LAFC fan season ticket holder.
Well, we love you.
Thank you. And the experience, by the way, has been fantastic, including the use of public transportation there, because of all the professional sports in Los Angeles, it's the only sport that you can take public transportation to get to. And that adds to the fan experience. But my question is more on the television side. I believe that you have to pay a fee to watch the MLS games. I get DirecTV, so I don't know how it is on other channels. And has that been, do you think that was a strategic mistake on your end in terms of limiting your audience? Because have you built the fan base sufficiently so that you could justify asking for the fee? Or would it have been perhaps better to make those games available, build a fan base, and then ultimately turn it into a subscription model?
Well, that could be a whole new panel that we could spend an hour on, but it's a very good question. So the question is should every club have free-to-air television? The answer is, if we could do that, we would. Every market is different, and the economics of every market is different. In the case of LAFC, it was actually a pretty interesting local television agreement, because there were two elements to it. One is we did a Spanish language local deal with Unimas, and they actually produced the feed itself. So there is an ability to watch it on Unimas, which is a free-to-air network. YouTube TV came along and they said, you know what, and if you know anything about YouTube TV, it is a over-the-top streaming service in the neighborhood of $40, and it's probably the most robust package of channel offerings for $40 compared to any other offering out there. The choice that a consumer has to make in that case, if you're in LA, is you can either watch the game on Unimas, which is free to air, or you can watch it on YouTube TV locally, or if you're out of market, you can watch it on ESPN+. ESPN+ and YouTube TV are both over-the-top services that there's an additional fee for. So we are in this period of transition where I think eventually consumers are going to be able to decide exactly what channels and networks they want to watch other than the free to air. And so I think you'll see the composition of packages they call skinny bundles or the broader bundles. I think every year that's going to change. For my evaluation, the YouTube TV offering is one of the best values out there in sports and entertainment compared to cable. In your case, you probably either have cable or DirecTV, so you've already made your commitment. And so that's where we get a little bit of a rub, but our industry is in a bit of a transition that way.
But you can watch it in Unimas and hear wonderful goals and wonderful people working and learn a little bit of Spanish, have fun. I promise you, you will love the experience. It will be groundbreaking. Anything else that you want to ask or you want to add, guys? We learned so much today about you.
What I would add to what Gary
Over there.
Yeah, what I would add to what Gary was saying a moment ago is that the pace of that change is going to be even faster. 5 years from now, what kinds of packages might you be buying? The NBA is experimenting with last few minutes of a game. I mean, it's going to be totally different 5 years from now. So even the packages that those choices that Gary just described are going to be much different and many more probably over time.
Hi guys, very exciting project. We've actually done something quite similar at Arsenal over the last 6 to 12 months. I'm just interested to hear from both of you. How do you evaluate the success of this project and of this partnership? How do you guys kind of measure and reflect on it as you go through it?
Are you sure you're not a plant for one of our owners? No, the question is, how do we evaluate this? A couple things. One is we entered into this because we wanted to make a statement to our staff and to our clubs and to our ownership that we wanted Major League Soccer to be the front porch of innovation. If there's a good idea, we want to consider it. And so part of the reason we did this was to make a statement, because we think it's important for us to try new ideas and be willing to do something different. The second thing, though, I think is that if we can find solutions by finding these technology companies that help us solve these issues, that help us gain market share, that help make our All-Star game more valuable, that help make our broadcast either more efficient from a production standpoint or more interesting to watch. Our hope is that we find 4, 6, 8 different companies from around this global search that will really have a significant impact on our business, just like WSC did. Quite frankly, if we find one of them, it will be worth it.
From our point of view, when we engage with companies, we set up metrics. We set up metrics for whatever pilot or type of engagement we conduct, and then we evaluate against that. And usually it's, the assessment here is not that a single company is going to move the needle on the business in a relatively short period of time, but that it might point the way to how something can be scaled, and then point the way to how it could move the needle on the business over time. So that's how we look at it.
And I'll just mention one more point, and that is that in addition to the RGA MLS accelerator, we're also doing an accelerator program that is kind of led by the Dodgers. It was the Dodgers' idea, but that includes...
Are you a Dodger fan?
No, I'm a Cleveland Indians fan, but it includes UEFA, it includes the National Hockey League, it includes Major League Baseball, it includes Octagon, Levy restaurants. So there's a group of about 10 of us that get together as an industry, as a sports industry, and we look at ideas that are a little broader than just MLS and the sport of football. And that's also an interesting project for us, because together we can aggregate our money and our resource and our thoughts a little bit to see if there's technologies that can affect our industry from a broader perspective.
Yeah, that's the third iteration of the program that we've been operating with the Dodgers since 2015. And just through various insights, working with other partners, we decided to open it up this year to a set of global partners. UEFA certainly is there, NHL, MLB, MLS, Fox Sports, Adidas, and a few others. The idea being that innovation can be thought of as a team sport, is kind of how we think about it. And by collaborating with other partners who are also in the space, certain new insights can be gained. But then going deep with this program around the specific
Well, it's 90 minutes. We have to go wrap it up, but you are available, both of you, right?
Sure.
In the mix zone like a player. If you have any questions, you
Not like
can
a player.
ask them, you can approach them. Thank you very much for listening to us today. I hope you enjoyed the rest of the day here at Soccerex. It was a pleasure to be with you, to
Thank you,
learn
Lindsay.
from you.
Thank you.
And I'm going to apply a lot of things that I learned today, but in my real life.
Thank you.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Lindsay.